Chapter 22. If it's difficult to tell us apart because we look so alike, just call us Eldor. I can tell you apart, it's okay. Really? How? Even our parents occasionally struggle to tell us apart. How to tell them apart? It came down to the subtle difference in inherent energy between them. The explanation seemed unlikely to be understood, so Yudhir fell into brief contemplation. Thankfully, at that moment, the door adorned with a golden lion head opened, revealing the figure of Kishir's adjutant, Nathan Zuckerman. Has everyone arrived? I'm Nathan Zuckerman, the adjutant to the commander. I will brief you on the mission before the commander arrives. Please save your questions until after I have finished. Faced with Nathan Zuckerman's exotic appearance and icy demeanor, everyone found it difficult to speak up, even the blunt elder siblings. Nathan, seemingly accustomed to such cases, continued unperturbed. This mission is a direct command from His Majesty the Emperor and is thus of utmost importance. It may seem like a simple task of retrieving the redstone and returning to the capital, but we are not fully aware of the power concealed within the stone. We must prepare meticulously in case of any unforeseen circumstances. There is a low possibility, but there may be interference from a third party eyeing the redstone. Therefore, 5 knights from the House of Paletta, renowned for handling such missions, will accompany you and the commander. If you come across any issues beyond your capabilities, you are expected to cooperate with these knights. Are you coming with us, adjutant? As Hin raised his hand to ask, Nathan shook his head. No, I'll be handling the commander's tasks here. How long will the mission take? The commander anticipates it will take about a week. A week? Yudhir's face hardened at the surprisingly short schedule. He must be excluding the time it will take to travel. Yudhir remembered that it had taken almost a fortnight just to get to the capital to take the entrance test for the cavalry, living near where the redstone fell. Of course, he was young back then and didn't know the way well, which could have slowed him down, but even so, he wondered if it was possible to complete the mission and return within a week. How long did it take Kishir to finish everything last time? It seemed to take longer than a week. Am I underestimating the redstone retrieval mission? Or is that the only time the emperor gave? Yudhir did not know how the current emperor, who preceded the one he had served with, conducted his affairs. However, the emperor Yudhir had worked for always expected tasks to be completed within the specified time frame. If the current emperor shared this trait, it might explain why they were moving so quickly. Oh dear, it seems I'm the last one here. At last, Kishir made his appearance from within. He was dressed in a white commander's uniform, covered with a black cape that was less conspicuous. A large hood was attached to the cloak, enough to cover his face if needed. While the others seemed overwhelmed by his extraordinary aura and elegant beauty they were witnessing up close, Yudhir's attention was first drawn to the spectacular sword Kishir was wielding. He bought it, as expected, the divine sword, or. Yet, except for Nathan and Yudhir, no one could even imagine that this was the legendary divine sword. It was a given. We won't be using a carriage for quick movement. Is there anyone here who can't ride a horse? Horses was the most common means of land transportation. They, there were even jokes on this continent that there were more horses than cats or dogs. In particular, the Ore Empire, mostly made of plains, was famous for having well maintained roads for carriages since ancient times. Therefore, every citizen of the Ore Empire learned to ride a horse from a very young age. Even Udir, who had grown up with his grandfather in a mountain valley, learned how to ride a horse and guide a cart around the time he could walk. It was necessary for him to be able to take the diligently chopped wood down the village to sell. We can ride. After everyone nodded, Kishir signaled to Nathan. Nathan had greeted everyone formally, went downstairs first. The horses we'll be riding are not ordinary. You have probably heard of them at least once. We will be riding the Misty Wind horses bought by the mages of the Pearl Tower. Misty Wind horse is? Kana muttered with a puzzled face. Of course, Yudir knew what it was. A hybrid created by magic. Long time ago, the mages of the Pearl Tower conducted far more outrageous experiments than now. The creation of the Misty Wind horse, a crossbreed of an ancient monster that only lived in the mist and storms with the horse, was the most powerful result of their experiments. I can't believe we'll be riding that. Considering the period, they must have been widely used. I forgot. Misty Wind horses were living creatures, but unlike real horses, they never got tired, no matter how much they ran, and left no footprints. These creatures, which ran with a cold wind mixed with a mist instead of a mane, were designed to obey only the commands of the mages who controlled them through the magic stones embedded in their bodies. Since they didn't get tired, they could move much faster than real horses, but their numbers were small, so mostly only the mages of the Pearl Tower used them. Of course, only the mages of the Pearl Tower knew how to create a Misty Wind horse. I'm glad we extracted the secret of their creation before it fell. Thanks to that, even after those dreadful hybrids disappeared, the technology could be used elsewhere. The old mages who had been locked in the tower for a long time stubbornly followed their own rules. Until the advent of the cavalry, they were the only ones in the world who could perform miracles. They were also the ones who most strongly resisted feeling the fate that the cavalry would replace them, and they went beyond the limit to interfere and launch cunning attacks. Ultimately, their greed ignited their downfall. The Misty Wind horse, which naturally disappeared after the tower fell, Yudir recalled the tower that might collapse again in a few years and its symbolic monster, and followed Kishir down to the lower floor. Your Grace, these are the Misty Wind horse you requested we prepare. 4 mages wearing robes with pearl buttons, a sign of their affiliation with the Pearl Tower, stood at the entrance, which was intentionally left clear. They held the reins of several Misty Wind horses. The sight was truly magnificent. Most people would never see a Misty Wind horse in their lifetime. These creatures seemed as though they were made visible by sprinkling a handful of silver powder where a whirlwind has coalesced. They were enormous, appearing to be twice the size of an average horse. In order to restrain these formless creatures, a bridle and a magic stone, both made of special materials, were necessary. When the Misty Wind horse, tethered to the real bridles held by the mages, let out a cool neigh and trod the shadowless ground, Only the soft sound of the wind spread. Yudir looked into the creature's eyes, which resembled the holes of a sieve, and thought to himself how unpleasant their appearance was, even upon second glance. It's strangely fascinating. It shines silver. I wonder if it will sparkle like this at night. Yes, but it's not enough to attract attention of beasts or monsters. Those creatures would rather avoid the misty wind horse. It was only natural for a being that was not born naturally to be shunned everywhere. Only humans sought to distort and exploit these creatures. At Kana's murmur, Yedir unconsciously replied, blinkingly when he felt eyes turn toward him moments later. How did you know that? Have you seen one before? I have heard about them from a passing mage. I see. Fortunately, his companions didn't doubt the truth of his answer. After all, they had all left the places they had lived in for their entire lives only a few months ago, traveled for a long time, and came to the capital. Your Grace, it's been a long time. After a bit of waiting, knights wearing light armor appeared not far away and kneeled in front of Kishir. Compared to the dazzling armor of the Imperial Knights, their attire was modest, almost mercenary like, but the emblem embossed on their shoulder guards was the same flame pattern used by the Duke of Paletta. These were the knights under the Duchy of Paletta, whom Kishir had gathered. We had a hard time bringing 11 misty wind horses. They tend to fight when grouped together, so when tied up, they must always be separated. Saddles aren't necessary, but to control their speed, a specific sound signal is used. After confirming that all the personnel to retrieve the redstone had gathered, the highest ranking mage from the Pearl Tower briefly explained how to handle the horses. When you need to slow down and stop, blow a long whistle once. When you need to speed up, blow keep blowing short whistles and they will gradually speed up. The whistle doesn't have to be loud. These creatures are made to understand the sound of humans riding them. Also, be careful not to place them near a fire. They are weak to heat. They might melt or disappear. Those riding Misty Wind Horse for the first time listened attentively to the instructions. Of course, Yudir already knew this, so he paid more attention to observing the faces of the gathered people.